look at where the OHSAA has gone, you've added, the last 15 years, we've added bowling, seeded divisions in track and field. You mentioned lacrosse. Lacrosse is one of those sports that you've added. Take us through the process of adding a sport, because I think there's a misconception out there that Jerry Snodgrass can snap his fingers and the next week we can start competing in this sport across the state of Ohio.
Jerry Snodgrass sometimes wishes he could snap his fingers. You know, I'm not one. You know, we often talk about. I got a letter the other day about somebody appreciating our state basketball tournament this year, where we changed the format of the
double
tournament.
Headers,
Correct,
basically.
the format of the tournament. And got a letter from someone saying, "I appreciate your aggressive approach." And I kind of smiled because I do have an aggressive approach, respectful of the boundaries and the guidelines and the oversight that I have. But we've had some very old, antiquated rules, and that's true in a lot of organizations, that were put in place when we only had football, basketball, and baseball. Mm-hmm. You know, then along came softball, then along came volleyball. And a lot of those rules just never change. I call them one-size-fits-all rules, that we had these rules that were handcuffing to the growth of things. Good example, we've had a long-standing rule, it's been in place as long as I could ever know, that you must have 250 schools sponsor a sport before you bring it in. Well, lacrosse is America's growing sport. When we brought it on, we're now in our third year, when we brought it on 3 years ago, there were 130 boys teams and about 127 girls. When we brought that on, that didn't meet our requirements. So I was able to convince our board to create a category called emerging sports. And that gave us some flexibility, and I kind of laugh, it kind of gave us the flexibility to follow all of our rules except where noted. And I like that because it allowed us some flexibility with common sense. If something like that comes on and fails, hey, I'm taking that personal. And if it fails because it could be a financial liability and I can't let it be, I know that I have enough oversight that I might not be employed very long. So, you know, those are challenges, but I love to take those challenges and solve them.
Boys volleyball, one of those emerging sports that looks like that's going to be added in the very near future.
My goal is to add that. Again, our board, representative of all the schools in Ohio, will be the final say on that. And I think the biggest thing for me is that, you know, I will never ever bring something on without a plan first in order to do it. You know, how will the tournament be structured? Currently it has an entry fee, and we have no entry fees in any of our tournaments other than the other emerging sport, and that's lacrosse. So, you know, to make it financially solvent, to make it, you know, so a growth potential in it. The other part of that is the current organization that oversees boys volleyball has come to us and said, please help us. We're tired. We've done our diligence. We'll help you. And when you've got that kind of a partnership, why wouldn't you? If that organization goes away that oversees it now, and they say they will, our schools would be pleading for oversight and regulations. Why wouldn't we be on the front side of it? And fortunately, I have a board that believes that. So I'm confident that we will be bringing that on in the next few years.
When you look at adding sports, when you're looking at these emerging sports, how much are you paying attention to what colleges and universities are doing? Are you trying to follow that cart, or are you trying to lead the horse when it comes to adding sports?
Well, you know, a long-standing belief of ours is that, you know, 97 to 98% of our kids do not go on to play at the collegiate level. So we do have to focus on the high school experience. Now, the other side of that is when you have emerging sports like that, many colleges and universities are committed to helping you grow that sport. Right. So that's a win-win for everybody. If they do go on, and probably in some of those sports, there's a much greater opportunity for scholarship money. You have to be sensitive to that. I mean, that 2% that's never going to go, the 2% that does go on, that number may be a little bit higher in some of those, and I think that's something we have to pay attention to.
Well, I think that's part of the message as well, is that only 2 to 3% of high school athletes will play college sports. Probably even less of that will earn a scholarship, yet every parent thinks their son, their daughter, they're going to get a free ride because they think they're good enough to play a sport, and that's just not the reality.
No, and I love the old NCAA commercial that, you know, most of these athletes will become professional in something other than athletics. Well, most of our kids may go to college in something other than athletics, and I think, you know, we have to understand that. But I know it sounds like a very, you know, philosophical thing when I say this, but all the benefits of a high school sport, from the hard work, all of the teamwork, all of the dedication, all those things are something that I just don't think will ever go away if they're done the right way in high schools, and it's up to us to keep those going.